Hello and welcome to this quick follow-up video about this thing here. This is a gimbal. It's actually this one here. It's the HEQ G-Port gimbal. I looked at it in a video a few weeks ago and I'm trying to figure out how could I have a play with it and test it. And this is what I've come up with. It looks a little bit of a Frankenstein setup. Don't worry, I'll kind of show you if you're interested. I'll put time codes to all this stuff down below of how I've set it up. I've put the gimbal at the front of this buggy and then I have put a walk snail unit in the middle, battery to power all this goodness. I have put a fan after I recorded the bits. The walk snail unit needs quite a bit of airflow. It's getting quite warm, particularly in the hot days that I'm running this around in. And that little thing at the front, that's just a moon gel pad that I stuck a camera on to get a comparison between the footage from this stabilized gimbal and what it looks like normally rolling about. Now, the really exciting thing is there has been a firmware update or more firmware made available for this little gimbal. They've now actually released a custom firmware for us that want to use this thing as an FPV setup. So not only can you now set it up to work as a traditional gimbal or to set it into a mode where it acts like I've got it set up here, it's kind of slave to the steering so I can look into the corner as I'm riding around. You can also set it up specifically for an FPV setup, so you can change things like the pitch and the default angles rather than have it just kind of level automatically. So very, very excited about that. So let me show you what this footage actually looks like. That's what we're interested in. I'm going to just show you some of it running around in the back garden, and we'll put some of the footage from a little Runcam camera that I had mounted, hard mounted here, to kind of show you the difference between the two. So in the top left hand corner, that is the walk snail goggle DVR footage. That's what I'm actually looking at. In the bottom right hand corner, that's the raw footage from the camera that's actually connected hard to the chassis, and you can see the difference here, particularly when I bang into things. You can see with the gimbal, the front of the car is rising up into the footage as I kind of roll it around on the canal bank here. You can see that by looking into the corner, it feels much more natural, and the other one is just getting bounced around as you would expect it to if you didn't have some kind of stabilizing gimbal on it. Having it slaved to the steering so the camera looks into the corner makes it much more intuitive to steer through obstacles, and I'm finding this incredibly fun. It's actually a real hoot to do this. I've actually had a couple of my friends around to have a go with it as well who used to be into radio controlled cars, and they have absolutely loved it too. So now I'll give you a quick taster of what it looks like in action. Let me show you in a little bit more detail how it's set up on the car. So here's the buggy with the top on. I've actually removed the whole top. I was trying to figure out a way that I could kind of connect the gimbal on it in a way that would work. However, in the end, I just thought, you know what, it's just easier for me to kind of do this. So I've got two scrap carbon fiber plates and kind of glued and bolted them together. That is this chassis. This whole thing is removable and powered separately. The only cable that goes from this top deck is one that goes into the receiver for a steering channel. I'll show you that in a minute. So I've got the gimbal on here with the camera connected. The camera's actually not fully connected. I've just connected it with a little bit of vibration isolating gel tape just to see how that works. It's connected onto here via a cable tie. There is a little 3D printed support for it. We obviously in the middle then have good old walk snail, so that is connected into the cable that goes into the gimbal. Then the cable has been connected to the back of the camera. That cable is part of this gimbal system. 3D printed a little antenna mount, and that's where the antenna is for that. Both of the cables for power for both the gimbal and the walk snail come into this XT60, which I've just hot glued to the top. Told you it was a bit rough and ready. And then back here is a space for a battery with one of my battery straps that will kind of power everything on 3S. So that is the way that the car is set up, and hopefully as it's bouncing around you'll get a little bit of the front of the car in the image. Now the interesting thing with this is that I was going to kind of 3D print a whole kind of little roll cage to go over this, but for this little test I just want to see how it works, and it's probably taken me a week with, you know, doing bits and pieces here just to get all this sorted out. But with this done, we're kind of almost ready. The only other thing that I've done is on the radio. If I just power up the MT12.
Welcome to HTX. Switch warning.
What I've done here is we go across in the mixes. I've added another steering channel to channel 3. Hopefully you can see that there, which is -45. That then is the third channel that the gimbal is actually plugged into. So as I move the steering, it's actually moving the gimbal a little bit as well. Now it's just had to reverse because that's just the way the direction of the gimbal works, but it now matches the steering on the buggy. So that means now that as I steer, the gimbal is going to look into the corner, and I just want to see how well that actually works. So as you're driving, as you start to turn, your eyes will naturally look into the corner. This hopefully will kind of give me that same sensation. Now, as I said in the introduction, one of the big things I'm excited about is that HEQ seem to be listening to us and have released this FPV specific firmware, which makes it perfect for those of us that want to use it for FPV. I'd really like a smaller, more compact version in maybe 2 and 3 axes that would allow us to put it in lots of different places. I really need some kind of protective cage over the front of this to stop it getting hammered. I have kind of knocked it off. You know, the vibration isolated little pads at the bottom have been pulled out one side on a couple of occasions. So it does need something that would protect it. However, if HEQ are going to be in this market and playing with this stuff, I really hope they make a smaller, more compact, probably more simplistic, stabilized little setup, or even one that isn't stabilized, that we can just use for head tracking, pan and tilt, or pan, well, all 3 axes actually. That would be a really cool thing. So I just wanted to show you this. I've mentioned it to my Patreons on a live stream recently, and they were very interested to see it. So you thought, you know what, let me put this video together to actually show you how well this works. Am I going to put this on an airplane or a wing and fly around with that? Not sure. The issue is that having that stabilization means that I don't get the feedback from the FPV image of what the horizon is doing. Admittedly, I could put an artificial horizon on in iNav or Betaflight, but to be honest, I'm not really interested in doing that. I tend to like to actually see the plane moving around. It lets me know how much wind and turbulence and things I'm flying through. But for those of you who want a stabilized image, maybe you already have a car, truck or boat that you have tried FPV on and it's just wibbling around too much and it's making you feel ill, maybe something like this is going to be the answer for you. So this gets my thumbs up. It isn't cheap, but I've got my fingers crossed and I will be feeding back to them. Yes, more of this please, thank you. We like the FPV gimbal stuff. Let's have it smaller, lighter, a little bit less expensive would be nice too, for those of us that just want pan and tilt, or maybe even full 3-axis stabilization for those who want to go the extra mile. Thank you for watching my video. Check out the playlist, and adding Painless 360 to your search terms will help you find my content. If you haven't done so already, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. You can support the time I spend here answering questions and helping others by using the links in the video description.